If you've been thinking about setting your business up as a franchise, I'm going to tell you how to go about that and at the same time, hopefully, ensure your success through the proper procedures. I actually started a franchise system back in 2004 and it was pretty successful. We took it to every state of Australia and we went overseas into 17 countries around the world. And it was a brilliant exercise. It was a fantastic process. And I want to share my knowledge with you on how that success came about. But first and foremost, what do you need to do to ensure you get the most out of your business and your franchise setup right from the start? To get started, what you need to do is ensure that your business has been operating for at least 2 years successfully. That means you've got some runs on the board. You've proven that your model actually works. And that's a really absolutely necessary thing to do, because ultimately down the track you're going to have people test your business system, and they're people that are going to come from within. So what I mean by that is future franchisees are going to try and prove your business either works or doesn't work. And if it's them that's letting the team down, they're going to blame you. So what we want to do is make sure that we don't make that mistake right from the start. And how do we do that? We prove the system up front, and we prove it in a manner that shows that the business can be not only established properly, but it can also be replicated. And what we mean by that is that it's not only going to work for you in your location, it's also going to work for them in their location. So how do we do that? We need to ensure that the business is sound and bulletproof. So some of my other videos where we're talking about, some of the key elements to success, we should adopt that as well. So I recommend you check those out. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the business we're currently operating can be what's called scalable. So if you're working currently in your business and you're looking to go down the franchise path, the very first thing you have to do is actually step away from the business. And I know that sounds really weird, because most people who are wanting to franchise work heavily in their business to iron out all the kinks and all that. But if you step away from it and actually put people in to manage it, then it's essentially running like a franchisee would run it. So if you can sort of step back, overlook the business, ensure all the elements are being done the right way, how you know that they will work, then you can sort of start to prove the model and break the model too, because it's important that you break it to fix it and find out what went wrong, and then put the pieces in place to ensure that that doesn't happen again. So that's called just shoring up the business, and that's also checking the robust nature of your business. So second to that, what you want to start doing is actually start preparing yourself for a franchise model. And what I mean by that is all the information about how the business runs is probably currently with you or with some senior people in your business. You want to start ensuring that information is set down in stone and it's documented, and that you can start understanding how your business operates. So you're going to need procedures, you're going to need operations, you're going to need to put down all the different elements that make your business unique. And why is it so good? Why is it worthy to franchise? How come it's worked for you? What are the key elements to your business that has made you a success to this date? And you shouldn't think, I'm going to go franchise this model until you know it's a success, until you know that someone else is going to be successful in it. Because the first thing that's going to happen, if it's not, is it's going to make you and your brand look bad when someone else fails in it. And it happens over time. So we don't want to have that happen. So let's get it right from the start. Let's not muck around here. Let's do this the right way. Now, we're moving towards the actual franchise itself and getting the things right. Here in Australia, we have what's called the Franchise Code of Conduct. Now, if you don't have the Franchise Code of Conduct, I suggest you go and download it and read it again, and then just for some more fun, read it again. It's not a fun read, let me tell you. There's plenty to it. But if you don't comply with that Franchise Code of Conduct from the very first time you start to go to franchise, you're going to be in a world of trouble legally. Now, in order to do that, you're going to need several aspects to the franchise bundle that we're going to sell a franchisee. You're going to have to cover off an operations manual, which is the documentation on how to run the business. So that's every step that a franchisee can pick up and say, this is what I need to do to make my business successful. And that really should be reflecting of what you've done. So there's those elements in there. There's also going to be things about the brand, trademarks, how they can use them, what they can do with them, where they can use the brand, where they can't use the brand, what's an overreach, what isn't. And now we have to include things like social media too. What are they allowed to post? Are they allowed to have their own social media pages? Are they not allowed to have social media pages? Is that something you're going to provide? What about marketing? How are they allowed to market their business? Can they change your marketing materials? Can they develop their own marketing materials? All this stuff needs to be established well before the franchise is even sold. Now, that's what I was talking about before. We need to start getting those elements right before we go to franchise market, which means before you go and sell your franchise to anyone else, you've got to work that stuff out and have those things in place. That's where you should start to be developing your operations manual. Now, operations manuals aren't hard to put together. Don't feel intimidated by that, but it's something that needs to be done right, and it doesn't have to be done perfectly up front. It does have to be pretty robust though. Okay, so it does need to reflect what you've been doing. Secondly, you need a really good franchise agreement, one that's going to establish how your franchise business relates to you and your franchisee. What's the relationship going to be? How's the fee structure going to be? Is it a product business? Is it a service business? How are you going to make money from your franchisees? And the same token, what are you going to do for your franchisees? All that stuff needs to be sort of established up front and in an agreement that you both are happy with and you both sign. Again, these documents need to reflect the franchise code of conduct, which in this country, in Australia, but I'm sure in whatever country you're watching this from, you're going to have your own legislation around franchising, and you should look into that, and you should get proper legal advice before you start this process to ensure you're not going down a path that's going to cost you money by setting it up the wrong way. We don't want to do that. Let's get this right from the start. So now we're sort of moving down the path a bit further. You need to have what's called a disclosure document. Now, a disclosure document is basically disclosing everything. What's your past? Have you had any problems with legal before? What is the entity structure that your business is? So what are you going to be selling them in relation to the franchise? It should also talk about any past franchisees, any current franchisees, any disputes you've had, all those sorts of things. And the franchise code of conduct will outline what that document has to have in it. So there's 3 major documents you need to have up front. You need to also work out what's your training package going to be. How are you going to train this franchisee to do exactly what you've done? Is it a territory-based franchise, i.e. is there a definition of the area that they're going to be in? Is it a store-based franchise system where they have to find a store? If you're going to find a store to set up, what are the terms of that going to be? Are you going to find the premises, or are they? Again, this all comes back to reflecting on how you will be portrayed in the marketplace. So franchising is not something that you can just flip a coin and get into. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's certainly something that's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time to set up, but if it's done right, it's mutually rewarding for the franchisee and the franchisor. Okay, so if you can get this right, and I've still got friends in the industry who are still running their franchises very successfully, then you will be successful in your own right. But start from the very beginning to get these processes in place. Now, another thing that you want to look at, and it's very important, is you can actually set up the franchise itself and then sell that as a going entity. So you can start selling existing franchises that you've built yourself, and obviously if it's got an income and all those sorts of things, you're going to be able to sell it for more than what you initially thought. And so all those elements there are in place. What's your financial model? How much are you going to ask for the franchise? What does the franchisee get as a result of what they pay you? How's that going to reflect in their return? So you've got to build a business case for the franchisee, and they also need to look at that franchise as a as a business model. So they should be providing you with their business case on how they're going to make your business work. So all these elements come into it. I strongly suggest very good legal advice. I strongly suggest you get a good accountant who understands franchising. And I strongly suggest that by doing those elements there and you get that process right, that you get it checked by a series of people who are in the industry and know what they're doing. Don't get conned by lawyers who purport to be involved in franchising and have experience in it. You want to make sure it's a lawyer who actually does franchising. And by doing that, there's some people which you can find who aren't going to be over the top in terms of charging you. But the more work you can do, the less those fees will cost you to set this business up. And once you do it, you're going to find that it's very rewarding. It is a great industry to be in. I really loved it. And, it's something that I would do again, absolutely. But you just have to make sure you do it the right way, or else it could cost you, and it could cost you down the track. So you don't want to have the franchisee use anything against you because you haven't done it right to begin with. That's what this video is about. I hope you got something out of it. I'm not going to go into detail on how you do all those different elements that I just mentioned, but they're the things you have to get across the line. So if you're thinking of franchising, that's a good place to start. Put down in the comments some suggestions of what you'd like to know about in terms of franchising, and I'll see if I can find you the answers. Thanks for watching. Tick the like and please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Cheers.